Bryan Kohberger, the case of the Idaho student killings. He has finally had his day in Idaho court. We're going to go through a lot of it because the court has released a ton of materials that are well worth our attention. And so we're going to take a look at, of course, the affidavit. The affidavit has been the subject of a lot of headlines. It is very juicy. It's quite long. We're going to go through the whole thing. We're also going to take a look at the traffic stops that the police, the FBI, law enforcement, they were monitoring him, following him along. There were airplanes flying all over the place over his house before the arrest. We've got the updates from the court, the airport perp walk, the court docket, and the no bail hearing from the judge. But let me share this with you. You can see here, this is all public. These are cases of interest out of the Idaho court. And in Idaho, they've got everything listed here. It's Latah County, CR 29, 2022, 2805. And there's a bunch of documents, and they're updating these basically in real time. Today was the hearing. On the 5th, they've got the notice of the hearing. It's updated. So this is outstanding. We'd love to see this type of transparency. Shout out to everybody from Idaho. We're going to go through all of this in detail, especially the affidavit because it is big and it is juicy. But before we get into that, let's get our bearings straight because they were following him. Actually, let's just go to the affidavit, and then we'll check back in on the... We'll go to the affidavit first, and then we'll sort of follow along the affidavit and check out some of this other information. And so let's pull this back up here. All right, this is the affidavit. The statement of Brett Payne in the case of the Idaho student's killing. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger. This is law enforcement investigating him up until the moment of his arrest. They submitted this to the judge to get a probable cause order that an arrest was appropriate. The below information, starts this affidavit, is provided by Brett Payne. He is a duly appointed, qualified, and acting police officer within the county of Latah in the state of Idaho. They say Mr. Payne is employed by the Moscow Police Department in an official capacity as corporal and has been a trained and qualified peace officer for approximately 4 years. Mr. Payne is assisted by members of the Idaho State Police and agents of the FBI. Okay, so a little bit of background on him. So here he says, on November 13th, and he wrote this. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting because he sort of wrote this like in the third person, like Brett Payne is employed, and then he switches to the first person here. Okay. So he says, okay. Anyways, on November 13th, writes Officer Payne, at approximately 4 p.m., Moscow Police Department Sergeant Blaker and I responded to 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, hereinafter named King Road Residence, to assist the scene and with scene security in the processing of a crime scene associated with 4 homicides. Upon our arrival, the Idaho State Police, the forensic team, was on scene and was preparing to begin processing the scene. MPD Officer Smith, one of the initial responding officers, advised he would walk me through the scene. Smith shows up first. Payne shows up. Later, he gets the walkthrough from Officer Smith. So Officer Smith and I, we entered the residence through the bottom floor. The door was on the north side of the building. Smith and I then walked upstairs onto the second floor. Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom on the second floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room, was Xana Kernoodle's, hereinafter Kunoodle's, room. Just before this room, there was a bathroom door on the south wall of the hallway. As I approached the room, I could see a body, later identified as Kernoodle's, laying on the floor. Kernoodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon. Also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan, hereinafter called Chapin. Chapin was deceased with wounds later determined. Autopsy reported was provided by the Spokane medical examiner. That was dated December 15th. The death was caused by sharp force injuries. Says that I then followed Officer Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence. Third floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Gonclave's, hereinafter Gonclave's, room. I later learned from review of Officer Nunez's body camera that there was a big dog in the room when Moscow police officers initially responded. The dog belonged to Gonclaves and her ex-boyfriend, Jack Dukor. I found out from my interview with Jack Dukor on November 13th that he and Gonclaves shared the dog. Officer Smith then pointed out a small bathroom on the east side of the third floor. This bathroom shared a wall with Madison Mogen's bedroom, which was situated on the southeast corner of the third floor. So the officer's giving us the whole layout there and just walking us through it room by room. He says, as I entered this bedroom, I could see two females in the single bed of the room. Both Gonclaves and Mogen were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side. On the bed next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had a K-bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle, Globe, and Anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of the male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath. This was the suspect profile. They say, as part of the investigation, numerous interviews were conducted by Moscow Police Department officers, Idaho State Police detectives, and FBI agents. Two of the interviews included BF, DM, and both BF and DM were inside the King Road residence at the time of the homicides and were roommates to the victims. BF's bedroom was located on the east side of the first floor at the residence. Based on numerous interviews conducted by the MPD officers, ISP detectives, FBI agents, as well as a review of evidence, I have learned the following. They write, hang on, was something happening here? Okay. I was checking on that, but looks like nothing's really going on. It says, on the evening of November 12th, Chapin and Kernodle were seen by BF at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus at a certain location, 9 p.m. to 1:45 a.m., the date ranging between November 12th and November 13th. Now, BF also estimated that at approximately 1:45 a.m., Chapin and Kernodle returned to the residence about 1:45 a.m. BF also stated that Chapin did not live at the residence but was a guest. They say that Gonclaves and Mogen were at a local bar, the Corner Club on Main Street. This happened in Moscow. Gonclaves and Mogen can be seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club, by the bar, 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. from November 12th to the 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Gonclaves and Mogen can be seen on video at a local food vendor called the Grub Truck. That's also Main Street, downtown Moscow. The Grub Truck live streams video from their food truck on the streaming platform Twitch, which is available for public viewing on their website. So people are eating and they're just streaming it live. So this video was captured by law enforcement. They got their hands on it. A private party, blank redacted, reported that he provided a ride to Gonclaves and Mogen at 1:56 a.m. from downtown Moscow in front of the Grub Truck over to the residence. So we have an unknown person who's transporting them. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the residence were home by 2 a.m. and asleep or at least in their rooms by 4 a.m. That's with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at 4 a.m. Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who did report that information. So yeah, late night order. So DM stated that she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the south side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. 4 a.m. she wakes up. Sounds like Gonclaves is playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms. She's on the second floor, they're upstairs on the third, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM said that she heard who she thought was Gonclaves say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of the records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed that this could have been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 in the morning. So she's up. And Gonclaves hears some about that. Says DM stated that she looked out of her bedroom, but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. Pokes her head out the door, didn't see anything. Stated that she opened her door a second time when she heard that what she thought was someone crying coming from Kernodle's room. DM then said that she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, quote, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at the residence, a residence immediately to the northwest of this residence. So we're talking about 1122. There's another located residence at 1112. They picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. So they go to a security camera in the building next door, and they start, pulling that audio footage, and they enhance, and they hear voices and a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. So pretty close, but that's still pretty far. But they got something out of there. It's the sound of a whimper, loud thud, dogs barking. So they got some good data out of that. DM stated that she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. That's like really close to see somebody, right? That's like face to face. You could see their eyebrows. He's got a mask on. I don't know if it was a psychopath mask or if it was a COVID mask, who knows? But they are wearing that down, and she gets face to face with him. The male walked past DM as she stood in, quote, a frozen shock phase. So she just was petrified. The male walked back towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Now, this is interesting. If he just had allegedly murdered 4 people, why would he leave this person alive to identify his bushy eyebrows or any of this detail? 5'10", taller, male, not very muscular, right? I think a common interpretation of this whole saga is that he was there for a particular person. Other people woke up, and so he had, to take them out also, or, something to that effect. So if that was his MO, why is he just walking past another person and not, taking out that other witness if he had to take out some of the other witnesses? So it's a strange thing to just sort of walk by and continue on your way. It's also strange that DM went back into her room, didn't call the police or anything like that. We're going to get there. Now, the combination of DM's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records from BF and DM's phone, and a video of a suspect video, as described below, leads investigators to believe that homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. So they're narrowing down the time. The affidavit continues. They say, during the processing of the crime, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then the amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern, similar to a pattern of a type of Vans-type shoe sole, just outside the door of DM's bedroom, located on the second floor. This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's travel path. Right, so they start assembling the footprints one by one. As part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvas, was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvas was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13th in the area of the King Road residence, surrounding neighborhoods, in an effort to locate the suspect or vehicles traveling to and from the residence. They go to all the neighbors, all the convenience stores, all the liquor stores, all the banks, all the bank tellers, all the ATM machines, right? ATM machines are recording all day, and they just go pull those cameras out and they say, okay, who's moving around where? They gobble it all up. This video canvas resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I've reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers, ISP detectives, FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained. A review of some camera footage, indicated that a white sedan, hereinafter called the suspect vehicle number 1, was observed traveling westbound on the 700 block of Indian Hills Drives in Moscow. That happened at 3:26 a.m. and westbound on a different street at 3:28 a.m. On this video, it appeared that the suspect vehicle not displaying a front license plate. A review of footage from multiple videos also obtained from the King Road neighborhood, door cameras, ring cameras, all of them, showed multiple sightings of the suspect vehicle, starting 3:29 a.m., ending 4:20 a.m. These sightings show that the suspect vehicle makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leaves via Walenta Drive. 3 passes. Weird. Based off my experiences as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood, very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. So upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit the area during this time. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time at approximately 4:04 a.m. This can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen Road and then driving back on the westbound road. When suspect vehicle number 1 is in front of the residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving back around. The vehicle is then next seen departing the area of the residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. High rate of speed, racing out of there. Suspect vehicle number 1 is next observed traveling southbound, and based on my knowledge of the area and the review of the camera footage in the area, that does not show the vehicle during the time frame. I believe that he likely exited the neighborhood at these locations. Okay, so what he did is he went around, he gobbled up all the neighborhoods, ring cameras essentially, and he's following him around, and he says, okay, well, he didn't come down this road. We got this neighborhood camera. He didn't come down here, which means he turned off either on Palouse Road or on Konestja Road. So they've got the whole map recreated. Palouse River is at the southern edge of Moscow, and that proceeds into this location. Eventually, the roads lead back to Pullman, Washington. That's approximately 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. So he's bouncing around all these back roads. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them. So law enforcement officers provided video footage of the suspect vehicle to forensic examiners with the FBI, working on an actual case this time. Congratulations. That regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that's observed by 1 or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensic examiner has approximately 35 years law enforcement experience, 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles. He uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles to identify different vehicles across states, differences between the vehicles. Says that after reviewing numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, this forensic examiner initially believed that the vehicle was a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. And upon further review, he said, well, it could be a little bit broader than this. It could go all the way up to a 2016 year. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that is a 2011 to a 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. All right. So anybody in that area who owned a white Hyundai Elantra of that year, make, and model, they probably had their records looked at. Okay. It's crazy what they did. And they went through, all this stuff is probably public record. Some of the vehicle records. Yeah. So I'm very curious how they did this mechanically, like what the operations were, what they jacked into to get all of it. But they were looking at a lot of cars. So investigators were given access to the footage on the Washington campus in Pullman, Washington. A review of that video indicated that about 2:44 a.m. November 13th, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of a white Elantra, known as the suspect vehicle, that was observed on the Washington surveillance cameras traveling north. At approximately 2:53 a.m., a white sedan, also consistent with the Elantra, was traveling southeast on another street. Now, SR 270 connects to Pullman. This camera footage was provided to the FBI forensic examiner, and they started talking about now 2014 to 2016. So they're moving the makes and years of the vehicle around just a little bit. At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, we're still sort of going through the surveillance footage at this point. 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the vehicle, was observed on 5 different cameras, on multiple cameras at the campuses. The first camera that recorded the white sedan was located at this road. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on that road. That leads directly back into this road, and then that road crosses 270. Now, at approximately 5:27 a.m., the white Elantra was observed on cameras traveling northbound on that road. Here's the depiction showing Moscow and Pullman. So, you zoom in here and they tell you, okay, look, these are the probably two towns right here. And he's sort of navigating us through how all of this works, right? Traveling around from this location, and he's going to, guide us through. All right. We've got an understanding of what that looks like. He says this is a depiction of the white Elantra's travel path. You see that here. Kind of bad color, kind of grayed out a little bit. But it says here that the white Elantra is seen leaving the campus at a certain time at the yellow triangle, which is here. So the yellow triangle seen returning to the WSU campus on a red triangle, which is here. We have the yellow triangle and the red triangle. And then we have 1630 Northeast Valley Road, which is here. Arrows are camera locations, and they indicate the approximate location of the direction of the travel. Right? So they're sort of saying, all right, this area, we can see this part. This camera, we can see this part. And these different things are what we can see. So he writes, with all of that background, he says, on November 25th, MPD, Moscow Police Department, they asked law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for white Hyundai Elantras. On November 29th at 12:28 a.m., a Washington State police officer named Daniel queried white Elantras registered at the university. As a result of that search, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate LFZ 8649. Washington State University police officer Daniel Tiengo got the guy, allegedly. The vehicle was registered to Bryan Kohberger, hereinafter Kohberger, residing in Pullman, Washington. That's approximately 3/4 miles away. That's the last location that the camera picked up that white Elantra. Wow. So he says that same day at 12:58, another officer named Curtis was looking for Hyundai Elantras and located one in the parking lot. 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. That is the apartment complex that houses WSU students. That was the circle or the gray rectangle, the yellow rectangle right here. That's the area. Officer Whitman also ran the car and returned it to Kohberger. So he's got him too. Got a Washington tag. So they send this over to the original drafter of this affidavit. He says, I reviewed Kohberger's driver's license information and photograph. This license indicates that Kohberger is a white male, height 6 foot, 185 pounds. The photograph shows that he has, here it is, bushy eyebrows. Bushy eyebrows is what this officer is referencing. That came from the conversation from DM, which was the individual who said that he had the bushy eyebrows. And this is a close-up. Oh, no. Of him. Well, I don't know where that went. All right. So you get it. He's got bushy eyebrows. You take my word for it. Further investigation continues, including a review of Latah County Sheriff and his body cams and reports. It showed that on August 21st, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho. At the time, Kohberger, who was the sole occupant, was driving a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra, same license plate set to expire in November. During the stop, which was recorded via law enforcement body cameras, Kohberger provided his phone number as ending in 8458, hereinafter the phone, as his cellular telephone number. So investigators then conducted electronic database queries and learned that 8458 phone number comes from AT&T. Now we see that there were some interesting traffic stops here. On October 14th, Bryan Kohberger was detained, got a traffic stop by WSU police officer. Upon review of that body cam and a report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant, driving the same vehicle. On November 18th, according to Washington State Licensing, November 18th of 2022, Kohberger registered the 2015 Elantra and received a Washington plate. Prior to this time, the 2015 Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. This we learned through communications with the Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified over there. So that explains why he doesn't have a license plate on the front. Okay, so as he was detailing this earlier for us, he said he was observing the car traveling down the street. The car didn't have the license plate. Okay, perfect. Why wouldn't it have a license plate? He's thinking to himself, here in Washington, you have to have a front license plate. Everybody knows that. And so he goes, that's weird. It kind of stands out of the ordinary. Well, why doesn't it have a front license plate? Oh, well, talks to a Pennsylvania cop. He says, oh, we don't need those here. Oh, okay. Well, based on my experience, he says, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plate. Investigators then believe that Kohberger is still driving the white Hyundai Elantra because his vehicle was captured on a December 13th, 2022 license plate reader in Colorado. And they have these police cars, they have these vans and police literal cars that just have cameras in the front of their vehicles, and they just capture license plates all over the place. Or it could have been at a toll road, right, or some sort of a checkpoint when you're crossing state lines. They're just reading license plate numbers and, suspended license, warrant out for that person, whatever. And they're just getting people. And the big stuff they go, follow up on. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th by law enforcement in Indiana. On December 16th at 2:26, surveillance video showed his Elantra in Pennsylvania. The sole occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. He's got family there in Pennsylvania, and we learned that through a law enforcement search using a database. And so based on the information provided on the website, on WSU's homepage, Kohberger is currently a PhD student. He studies criminology over there. Oh, great. At the Washington State University. They say, pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for the Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. So police have a little concern now. They say, oh, great. These records also showed that Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. He wrote in his essay that he had an interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. He also posted a Reddit survey, which we read here, which can be found via an open source internet search, which we did. The survey asked for participants to provide information to, quote, understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. All of that was in his, apparently his sort of questionnaire that he was going to give to ex-convicts. This was a Twitter thread that he posted over at the subreddit called RXCon. He was going to ex-convicts and he was saying, can you tell me how it felt when you killed somebody or when you did something very bad? And he had a whole series of questions that we went through here where he was saying, sort of, how'd you think about doing it? What was your plan for getting away with it? Why didn't you get away with it? How would you have done better? You know, those types of questions. It was kind of nuts. Now, as part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the residence on that date between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. After determining that Kohberger was associated with the white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the phone did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular tower resources in close proximity to the residence. So they're going, darn it. We thought we'd see him, right? If they had him just, bouncing around there inside the house, they go, well, that's great. We got this physical location along with this car, along with the license plate, along with all of the other things, and that's probably enough, but he's not there. Based on my training and experience and conversation with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cell phone records as part of their investigations, they say individuals can either leave their cell phones at different locations before they decide to go and commit the crime, or they can turn their cell phone off prior to going to location to commit the crime. So they leave it at one location or they just turn it off entirely. And they say they know how to do this. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in the area. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. And this vehicle was doing loops, passed it 3 times or so. Depending on the circumstances, he says, this could be done a few days before or for several months prior to the commission of the crime. And during these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cell phone at a separate location or turn it off since they don't plan to commit the offense that day. Right? So he's like, well, I'll turn it off for the actual murder, but I can leave it on when I'm just driving by because everybody just drives by this road. On December 23rd, officer says, I applied for and I was granted a search warrant. I wanted the historical phone records for this one phone number between November 12th, 12 a.m. and November 14th at 12 a.m. for that phone held by A&T, 24 hours preceding and 24 hours post-event. And they got to keep this narrow. They're not going to say, can we have access to all of his records all the time? Because the judge might deny that. That's kind of an overly broad search. And they don't, right? This is still pretty early in the investigation. On December 23rd, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records for 8458 from AT&T. They got back to him. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger at the Pennsylvania address. The account's been open since June 23rd, 2022. These records also included historical cell site information for the phone. After receiving this information, I sent it over to the FBI, a special agent certified as a member of the Cellular Analysis Survey Team. Members of this team are certified to provide expert testimony. They have to pass extensive training, written and practical examinations, all sorts of certifications. He says this special agent that I consulted with, he's got over 15 years of federal law enforcement experience, including 6 years with the FBI. Yeah, but has he worked for Twitter? From information provided by CAST, I was able to determine estimated locations from November 12th through November 13th in the time period authorized. On November 13th at 2:42 a.m., we can see that the 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to the Kohberger residence. Phone tracks him back to where he resides. At approximately 2:47 a.m., right? So it's pulling resources. It's communicating. Your cell phone, ping, I'm here. Ping, I'm here. Yes, you can send me a phone call. Yes, you can send me a text message. I'm alive and well. What do you need? But at approximately 2:47 a.m., the phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage southeast, consistent with Kohberger leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman. This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra. leaving the Kohberger residence, traveling south. That took place at 2:47 a.m. Now, at approximately 2:47 a.m. the same time, the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network. That's consistent with either the phone being in an area without cell phone coverage, or the connection to the network is disabled, airplane mode, or the phone is turned off. So basically they, within a matter of seconds. But he starts leaving is what this looks like. Leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south. Then he turns it off like en route. So the 8458 phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m., at which time it utilized cell phone resources that provide coverage to the Idaho State Highway 95 south of Moscow, near Blaine, north of Genesee. Okay, so they know exactly where all the towers are. They're just pinging the towers. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the phone traveling south on Idaho State Highway back this way, traveling west towards this other way, back into Pullman, north back into Pullman, which is where he left. We're coming full circle again now. Leaving 1630 Pullman, Washington. Now pulling back in. At approximately 5:30 a.m., the phone is utilizing resources that again provide coverage to Pullman, consistent with the phone traveling back to the Kohberger residence. The phone's movement are consistent with the movements of the white Elantra that's also observed traveling north on Stadium Drive at 5:27 a.m. Based on the review of the phone, the estimated locations, and the travel, they say the phone's travel is consistent with the travel of the white Elantra. Further review, they say, indicated that the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13th that are consistent with the phone leaving the area after the fact at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow. Specifically, the phone utilized resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 and 9:21. The phone next utilized cellular resources that are consistent with the phone traveling back to the area of the residence and arriving to the area at 9:32 a.m. So I think that means that he went and traveled back over there, right? It says further review. Left his residence, traveled to Moscow, used the same cell phone coverage that would have given access to the residence the next morning. That was on November 13th. Below is a depiction, not to scale, of the possible route taken on cellular device locations. So you can see he's traveling this way, following around, doing a little loop-de-loop. There he gets there. Now, investigators find that the phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th. But investigators do not believe the phone was in Moscow on that date. The phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date. Interesting. He says, based on my training and experience, I believe that Kohberger, the user of the phone, was likely the driver of the Elantra that we observed departing. Additionally, the route of travel during the early morning hours of November 13th and the lack of the phone reporting between those hours of 2:47 and 4:48 is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred at the residence. So they say, on December 23rd, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical records and prospective location information and a pen register trap and trace on the phone to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims in the case prior to the offense, whether he conducted surveillance on the residence, whether he was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the alleged offense. They wanted to know any locations that may contain evidence of the murders that occurred on the 13th and the location of the white Elantra, as well as location of Kohberger. So basically everything. The judge says, whatever you need, you got it. Go get him. On December 23rd, pursuant to that search warrant, I received historical records from AT&T. Account was opened June 2022, After consulting with the feds, the FBI, I was able to determine estimated locations for the phone from June all the way up until now, the time period authorized by the court. Right? Okay, so he keeps getting more and more permission from the judge to expand the scope of his search. I could only look at the time, then the time plus 24 hours before, time minus 24 hours after, and then same thing happening here, except we're expanding it all the way from the beginning of the account to now. The records for the phone utilizing cellular resources, it shows that this phone utilized cellular resources that did provide coverage to the residential area on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th. So he goes there at least 12 times, and he's at least on the cell towers. Okay, I don't know if he's stalking them or doing whatever, but he's using the same cell towers that they are. And he doesn't need to. He lives in a different city, town over. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours of their respective days, which, of course, looks a lot like stalking. One of these occasions, on August 21st, the phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to the residents for about an hour, 10:30 to 11:30 at night. Now, at that night, at about 11:37, Kohberger was stopped by Latah County Sheriff Deputy Corporal Duke, as mentioned above. The phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location at the time of the stop. They say that further analysis of cellular data showed that the phone utilized cellular resources consistent with the phone traveling from Pullman back over across a highway at 12:36. They utilized other resources that would provide coverage to Cat's Cup of Joe Coffee. That's located in a certain area. They got surveillance footage from Cat's Cup of Joe. That showed a white Elantra consistent with his vehicle, and he drove past Kate's Cup of Joe at a time consistent with the cellular data from the phone. All right, so now they're tracking him. You can see lots more yellow arrows. You can see yellow arrow here, here. We've got one here. We've got one over here, one here, following this way, this way, this way, tracking him all over the place. At approximately 12:47, the phone then utilized cell data in the area of Albertsons, a grocery store. Surveillance footage from the grocery store is consistent with his vehicle. They show him walk through the store, purchase unknown items at the checkout, and leave at 1:04 p.m. He's still traveling around. They say additional analysis of the records for the 8458 phone indicate that between 5:32 and 5:36, the phone utilized cell devices that provide coverage to another area. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network for approximately 5:36 to 8:30 p.m. That's consistent with the phone being in the area that the 8458 phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred. All right. On December 27th, agents then, knowing all of this data, they're following them all around from all these various towns. Agents in Pennsylvania, they're on him. They recovered trash from the Kohberger family residence. The evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. December 28th, Idaho State Lab reported a DNA profile obtained from the trash, and the DNA profile obtained from the knife sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of a suspect profile. At least 99.998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from being the suspect's biological father. So that's where they went to some of those public databases and they said, oh, that's the one. Based on the information above, I'm requesting an arrest warrant be issued from Bryan Kohberger. 1 count burglary, 4 counts murder, first-degree murder of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. I declare under penalty of perjury that this is true. Signed December 29th, your fiant, Special Agent, no, this is a local police officer, Corporal Brett Payne. Whew. All right, so a doozy of an affidavit there, and there is a lot more because these two, this is just sort of the beginning. The affidavit has been released, but there's a lot more evidence that is coming out, and there were several traffic stops as well. So let's take a quick look at some of these traffic stops so we can sort of add some meat to the bones. Now, this one took place 12/15/2022 at 15:50 hours, Axon body camera. This is the stop of Bryan Kohberger, and let's see what the police found during this encounter.
State police got your license and registration. I stopped you, man, when you were driving by me there. You're a little too close to the back of that semi. You're about one car and you in the back of this trailer. We're about one car and 10 miles an hour. So you're going 60 or 70 miles an hour. We're about 6 or 7 cars.
Okay, can't hear much.
Oh, you guys did?
Yeah, and you said that.
You guys stopped by a trooper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy. Was it like a black SUV?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And you thought you guys were following too closely?
All right, I don't think we see or hear much in this one, so we'll just fast forward through some of it. All right, so undercover officer conducts the traffic stop, pulls him over, and we see another one. So we see this happens later on. Let's see what this one has in store for us. This was released it says it's the same day, December 15, 2022, a traffic stop of Bryan Kohberger. The police want to get a closer look at what is inside that white Hyundai Elantra.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating.
Tailgating.
Is this your car? Okay. Cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're standing early.
What's WSU?
Yeah, I go to the university basically. In Louisville, that is SWAT team area.
I go to university, there was a shooting, they brought a SWAT team.
I have a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours to drive. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
Yeah, there was a mass shooting and everything.
Where?
SWAT team.
Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's going to the university, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look at Kohberger's hands.
At the university there?
Where are his hands at?
I actually do work there.
Oh.
PhD in criminal.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
No, this happened this evening. About an hour and a half ago, we're still wrapping it up for investigating. I'm not sure there's two shootings because they did shoot somebody.
I see.
And then you don't know about that actually. They were there for shooting out of the window or something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So do me a favor and don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Don't follow too close. I appreciate you. And so he got stopped twice there, right? And so he's going, uh-oh, I'm in big trouble. Now, I don't know, who these officers were, if they were FBI agents or they were working with FBI agents or if it was, who they were. But it was very likely, they're following this dude around the whole country. They kind of knew who he was. They needed to get DNA evidence. They needed to get enough to really make sure they could convict him because evidently he studies forensics. He studies criminology, right? Police are on high alert that this guy might have something up his sleeve to get away and they can't nab him. But they're following him. They're conducting these pretextual traffic stops. You're following a little too close up there. What the heck are you talking about? Was he following too close or not? Who knows? Who cares? Cops just made up a reason to stop him. They did. They were looking for his hands. They wanted to, ask him some questions, make sure it was him, and he's still moving along through. And he had to know something was up at that point, right? At this point, he's going, I'm getting stopped all over the place. I'm in big trouble. Now, my question is, what does Dad know, right? Dad's driving there along with him. What's Dad's involvement in any of this stuff? It is yet to be determined. But we're going to check back in. We're going to go through the rest of the court docket because there's a lot more to get to. There is a whole slew of documents. We're going to take a look at the arrest warrant, the actual criminal complaint, the non-dissemination order, the second amended order governing courtroom conduct, and the notice of the hearings. We'll fly through them relatively quickly. We'll also take a look at the airport perp walk, and we'll check in with the judge and see what she had to say at the court proceeding today. But before we do, my friends, let's check in with our amazing sponsors over at 4patriots.com and take ourselves a water break. And hey, I think I'm wearing the same shirt. Look at that. How about that? My friends, a food shortage could be coming. Even in the United States, experts have written about this as recently as July. Drought, inflation, even new policies are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food is more important now than ever. And you can create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriot survival food kits ever. This is not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years super survival food, hand-packed right in family-owned facilities in the United States, giving jobs to over 200 Americans. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, and they stack easily. They have different delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and you can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including this 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on orders over $97. Yeah, they're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code Robert. Start building your own stockpile today. Yeah, it's the same shirt, and it's basically the same exact haircut today, isn't it? Well, get your survival food, guys. Get it over there at 4 Patriots. Okay, and so let's get right back into the arrest. So we're getting closer. The affidavit has been filed. Law enforcement knows who this guy is. They've got DNA evidence. They've looked him up. They've matched everything. They say 99.999% sure. Following the phone, following the surveillance footage all over the place. Now, before the arrest occurs, watch this. They also have airplanes flying around this dude's house. This came over from Jay Kuda, somebody who does some OSINT work, open source intelligence. He said this is a playback of the air traffic above Bryan Kohberger's parents' house the night before he was arrested. An unmarked plane circled it for 2 hours. Look at that. And this is where you can just go on these open source intelligence websites and just scrape the data from the FAA, basically, right? All this is public information. And they're watching this. So Kohberger's sitting there. He's like, man, we made it to Pennsylvania. I think I escaped that. Got away with murder, literally. And they are circling over the skies. No way to escape it. And so that is what they did. Of course, they arrested him, and he has been being transported back over to Idaho. This is the scene when Kohberger, the runway perp walk of Bryan Kohberger, as he's transported in handcuffs back from Pennsylvania to Idaho. Walking down the tarmac, handcuffed up, officers to the sides, to the front, to the back, throwing him in the back of a truck as he makes his way to court. Now, there's another picture here, another image, video, where they're also putting a helmet on him. See this here. Kohberger gets a helmet on top of the head before they shove him in the back of that truck. Don't bang your head, okay? We've got a lot to talk to you about, and we're going to get to it. And so all of that took place. Now, he ends up in court. And so let's jump into some of these additional court documents. So we just read through the affidavit. And the judge, her job is to take a look at the affidavit and then make a decision about whether there's enough there. Is there enough probable cause to support these warrants and to go conduct the arrest? Here's what she found. After the affidavit was submitted in the case of Idaho versus Kohberger, the judge ordered and ruled as followed. She said, probable cause order under Idaho Rule Criminal 4. Upon review of the information provided in the affidavit that we just read through here, alleging that the defendant, Kohberger, committed the following offenses: burglary, murder first degree, murder first degree, murder first degree, and murder first degree. The court finds probable cause to believe the defendant did commit the crime shown above. A warrant of arrest shall be issued, and the amount of bail, no bail. You don't get out of custody when you murder for people. So judge signed off on that. Looks like Megan Marshall is the name of the judge. Magistrate judge signed off on that 12/29, 2:22 p.m. Clerk of the court signed off on this. Shout out to Tanya. We love our clerks of the court. That is what instituted all of the arrest. Okay, so the officers submit the affidavit. Judge says, that looks good to me. That's all I need to see. Here you go. Probable cause order is issued, and then the proceedings start. They go next and issue the arrest warrant. They say, perfect. We've got our probable cause form. Now we need to make the arrest. The arrest is as follows. You see here, it is a warrant for the arrest, which has gotten submitted in the court, and it is in the same case, Idaho versus Kohberger. It says this is approved for any law enforcement officer in the state of Ohio. We believe that there were 4 murders and a burglary that took place committed by this guy, Bryan Kohberger, and you are ordered to arrest him and bring him before this court. No bail. He's hereby committed to the sheriff of the county, signed off on again by Megan Marshall. That's the warrant. That's what gives the police the authority to go get this guy. Everybody is jumping in to get it done. The warrant is submitted, and then we get the criminal complaint. Okay, this is the charging document. So now, once the warrant has been executed, they've got to charge him officially. This is what that document looks like. So it's a bunch of documents. This is what prosecutions look like. This is from the prosecuting attorney's office out of Latah County Courthouse. They're letting the court know that, hey, search warrant went great. We got him. This is the criminal complaint now that's been filed. And once he got transferred back, he got served with this. And then that was the trigger for releasing all of these documents. Let's take a look at what it says here. It says that Bryan Kohberger, on or about November 13th, did there commit the crimes as follows. Of course, the 4 murders and the burglary. Idaho code, all of them are felonies, 5 different counts in total. Committed as follows. All of them, of course, taking place November 13th. Each of these is going to be for the different victims. So Bryan Kohberger unlawfully entered a residence and committed a crime, right? So burglary, entering a residence and committing a felony therein. Didn't necessarily need to take anything, but the fact, well, so great question. So American Dreamer just brought this up. Please explain the burglary charge. So burglary, if you look up this statute, now I don't practice law in Idaho. I'm not licensed to practice law in Idaho, but I'd guess that if you look this statute up, it doesn't require the taking of anything. Burglary just means essentially you enter breaking and entering and committing a felony therein. And, any type of felony, if you're trying to rob somebody, obviously that's a crime. It's felony theft in most states. So it's not necessarily that you have to take anything. People think burglary means you are robbing them. It's committing a felony inside the residence. So if you look up that statute, I guess that's how it was structured. Count 2. Now, these are all the different, and thank you for that, by the way. That came in from American Dreamer. Shout out to American Dreamer. Thank you for the super chat and supporting the show here. The other counts, of course, are the murder charges. First degree, willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, right? He actually wanted to kill them. He planned to kill them, and he did. Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan down here, all murdered. May they rest in peace, and peace to their families. All of this which is contrary to the form, force, and law of the statutes. Bryan Kohberger did it, and they say he must be dealt with according to the law. Signed off on by the prosecuting attorney. I think we met him before. He was a cousin related to Santa Claus up in the North Pole. But William Thompson is his name. Very jolly fellow. And so he's got his work cut out for him on this case. Now, that is the criminal complaint. That's the charge that was filed. We have some more. The judge said, I don't want anybody talking about this case either. All right, enough of the gossip. And the judge said the following and issued a dissemination order, often called a gag order. And so we'll see what this talks about here. The judge in the Bryan Kohberger case issuing this non-dissemination order, this one filed January 3rd in our great new year of 2023. Kohberger judge says it is hereby ordered that parties, including investigators, law enforcement, lawyers, prosecuting attorneys, defense lawyers, and everybody, you're all to shut up. No extrajudicial statements prohibited from making them. Anything, written or oral, concerning this case other than a quotation from or reference to, without comment, the public records of the case. All right. So if somebody says, can you tell me about this? What's the deal? What's going on with this case? You say, well, look to the public records. The court published it. Go talk to them about it. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going right to the court records, which they have conveniently put up for us. It says that this order specifically prohibits any statement which a reasonable person would expect to be disseminated by means of public communication that relates to any of the following things. 1, evidence regarding the occurrences or transactions in this case, character, credibility, or criminal record of any party in this case, the performance or results of any examinations or tests or failure of a party to submit to tests or examinations. Typo, missing an A right there. Yeah. And we have this one, any opinions as to the merits of the case. So no opinions. Any matters likely to interfere with a fair trial in this case. So you can't admit to anything. No admissions about the existence of confessions or anything. No conversations about the possibility of a guilty plea, right? So if prosecutors come out and they say, well, he's thinking about pleading guilty to second-degree murder, right? Then that means that he's thinking he's already guilty. And so that might bias the public about his innocence or guilt. It is further ordered that no person covered by this order shall avoid its prescriptions deliberately or indirectly, like don't tell your family member to start a blog or something. It's in full effect until a verdict has been returned. So signed by Megan Marshall. No conversations taking place about anything in the Kohberger trial. We have a second amended order about courtroom conduct, which we will take a look at. This one says here, the judge is giving us some more guidance on how this case will proceed. 4-page document. It is the second amended order governing the courthouse and courtroom conduct in the case of Bryan Kohberger. This order, says the judge, governs the courtroom conduct and the media activities, and it actually may be attended from time to time. It says this court's mindful. We have to balance constitutional rights, and we have to also balance constitutional rights of the media, and also we have to maintain order. We also have to prevent distractions. We also have to think about the safety of the public and all of these things. So with all that in mind, the judge says, here's what we've got. We are going to reserve seats for victims' families, their lawyers. We're also going to reserve seats for Kohberger's family and court personnel. The media will be pooled. So representatives of the media will have a pooled camera staff, so they'll all share one camera. It's going to be limited to 2 media members operating the pooled audio and video recordings of the hearing. 1 member media handling pooled still photography. Okay, so 1 photographer, 2 handling audio, video. Great. General public. The public and members of the media not designated may be permitted to sit in the courtroom as space permits. Wow. So you can just go and sit in. Can't reserve seats. No standing in the courtroom will be allowed. So we'll get cameras throughout this entire thing, right? Pooled camera staff shall be allowed. No seating in front of the bar, which is, the bar. You cross the bar, pass the bar. No person other than the court personnel designated by the court can sit in front of the bar. Entry and exit during court proceedings. No entry or exit during court session. Everybody's going to go through security screenings. Cell phones must be turned off and shall not be used for recording or transmitting any sounds or images. Otherwise, you lose your phone. Other electronic devices. Only authorized members of the media can use these things. Any disruptive behavior is going to be nuked out of the courtroom. COVID-19 precautions, they say, we'll let you know. No flash photography, no live broadcasting, transmitting, or streaming from the courtroom is allowed. Wait a minute, what? Allowed media representatives and their equipment will be located in the courtroom. The number and placement of the pooled cameras being used, subject to approval by the court. So the court can say, no, go in that corner, go in that corner. No flash photography, no movement around the courtroom. 2 audio-video recording devices and 1 still camera are permitted. Any traditional still camera shall have a silent shutter. No flash photography, no live broadcasting, transmitting, or streaming. So I guess we're not going to see this live? No movement around while court's in session. Camera and audio shall not be set up or nor disassembled. Okay, here. Portions of proceedings which may be televised. Photography, video not permitted during a recess. Wow. And no live broadcasting, transmitting, or streaming from the courtroom is allowed. That's crappy. No video or photography shall be taken of any papers, interviews, reporting, and vehicle parking. Talking about parking hours, media inquiries can go to these email addresses. Security is going to be tight. Any disruptive behavior will be punished. This is from the administrative judge. So this is not from the lower level judge. This is from probably the higher up judge. All right. Well, so I'm not sure we're going to see much live. I know there was a proceeding today, but I don't know if that was televised live. I saw recordings. Now, our final document in the Bryan Kohberger case is the notice of a hearing. And so we had that today. This was the initial appearance for a felony. Of course, murder charges are going to be the most serious felonies. And this is State of Idaho versus Kohberger. Date and time of this hearing was 1/5/2023 at 9:30 a.m. The judge is Megan Marshall. All of this was here. They're just notifying us literally of the hearing. It's set for the hearing on this day. Now, the hearing, of course, occurred, and the judge gave us a ruling. And so the judge looked at Mr. Kohberger and decided no bail for Bryan. Said, I already set your release conditions, and getting out of custody is not one of them.
At this point in time, pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 46B and Idaho Code 19-816 and 2903, I am going to leave the bail set in this case as no bail at this point in time until I have additional or further information at a later date and time. So with that, then, Mr. Kohberger, you will be remanded in custody and remain in custody on the no bail pending further proceedings in this matter. Is there anything further in the case then for today, Mr. Thompson?
All right, so going back into custody, not getting out anytime soon. Of course, there'll be a lot more to cover on this case. We will absolutely do that. So I hope you subscribe. I hope you like this video wherever it is you're watching from, and we'll, of course, see you as this case develops on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some good, serious Kohberger stuff, got through all of those documents, looked at 2 of the traffic stops, along with the perp walk down the airport. We also went through the Speaker of the House. And as we see, there is not going to be a speaker tonight. This is the final frame of the C-SPAN video that we were watching. And you can see the final results are, looks like McCarthy 200, Jeffries 212, Hearn 7. Trump got a vote. Must be from Matt Gaetz. 12 voted for others and 1 voted for present. And you can see this looks like a bunch of Democrats there just kind of yucking it up, having a grand old time. And so, of course, we covered a lot of that today. We did the highlights, saw that Donald Trump got an endorsement, and we'll cover more of that tomorrow when we come back and do it all again. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day for the show today.